So last year we did a wonderful talk about diversity at Jefferson and had a lot of specific requests about Jefferson and the LGBT community. So that's what led us to our online talk for this evening. Just a few notes before we get started. Dr. Lopez will do the presentation and then we'll do some questions and answers at the end. And I'll just go through my slides. A few upcoming Jefferson alumni events for everyone to keep in mind. For those of you that are from our New East Falls campus, we do have the Jefferson Alumni Reception at New York Textile Month in New York City, as well as Prioritizing Your Passion, an exclusive honors program alumni panel discussion on the East Falls campus. And the Department of Rehabilitation Medicine is celebrating its 50th anniversary. So that will be in Philadelphia on Thursday, October 24th. Of course, we hold over 100 events a year, so you can always visit jefferson.edu/alumni events to see what events are upcoming, both in your area and online. A few big signature events. We do have our Sidney Kimmel Medical College Alumni Weekend, so calling all 4s and 9s for your reunion. Again, make sure to register so you can see your fellow classmates. And we have homecoming at our East Falls campus on the weekend of October 4th and 5th. So we have a lot of fun and wonderful things planned for everyone this fall. And any ideas or things that you would like to see, please email us at alumni@jefferson.edu. And that's all for me. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Dr. Bernie Lopez, who's going to be able to lead us in our presentation this evening. Dr. Lopez, I just unmuted you, and I will unshare my screen so you can take the floor. Thank you again for joining us this evening.
Well, thanks for having me. Actually, let me just make sure. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you great.
Okay, great. And is there a screen now that says LGBTQ plus affairs at Jefferson?
Not yet. You have to choose share in your meeting controls, and you have to share your PowerPoint screen.
Okay, hold on. Share. Oh, got it. All right. Hopefully this will work now.
Oh, there it is.
All right, great. So I will take it from here. So everybody, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your busy evenings, or perhaps if you're on the West Coast, your busy late afternoon. As Rebecca said, I have a number of titles at Jefferson. I'm an emergency physician. I'm actually SKMC class of 1986. So I've actually been at Jefferson now for, it's now over 37 years that I've been with the organization. I'm currently the Associate Provost for Diversity and Inclusion for Thomas Jefferson University. So really, I provide oversight to the now, I think it's 11 colleges that make up Thomas Jefferson University. I'm the Associate Dean for Diversity and Community Engagement in the Sidney Kimmel Medical College. And I've been doing this work in diversity, both first starting in the medical school, then to TJU, and I've been involved in the clinical side as we've grown as an organization. So I'm one of the few people that have my hands in diversity really all throughout the organization. So it's great to have a chance to talk about I'm just going to call it LGBTQ plus affairs. I really enjoyed the opening slide for this whole talk. That was actually a picture from the Philly Pride Parade this year. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on, but it's a great introduction, and it really does illustrate where we are now, and I'm soon to tell you where we've come from. This is just one of many, just kind of to set the stage. We've made big efforts towards our diversity and inclusion efforts. I'll say certainly over the last 6 years or so that I've been involved in diversity work. we've defined diversity, really defining it as the richness of human similarities and differences. And rather than focusing in on any one group, it's really about all. It's just about having different people from different backgrounds with different life experiences. And that's how we really try to view diversity overall. This is the official Jefferson definition of inclusion, which is actually undergoing a change right now. This was probably about 4 years old, and as we've grown, we now include some non-healthcare areas, especially since we took on, since we merged with Philadelphia University. The definition, and really just the work that we do in diversity and inclusion, again, it's really to focus on health equity. So all the work that we do is really about providing the best care that we can, first to the patients that we serve. And again, as we have a pretty decent sized non-healthcare section of the university, it's really providing equity throughout the organization and to anybody that we serve, our learners, our students, anybody that we engage with. Our definition of inclusion is really about valuing each of the people that we have in the organization. So in an inclusive environment, and this is really the work that we are doing, we really strive for that environment in which truly everyone, each individual is valued for their whole selves, who they are, their identities, and what they bring to the organization. And our hope is that we have an environment that is inclusive enough to allow people to bring their whole selves, their identities, and allow them to do what they love to do best. And we view that the same way for the people that we serve. Again, our students, our patients, and the sort. So just kind of the background for the work in this area, diversity and inclusion, and what it means to Jefferson. So this was probably as good a time as any to talk about the topic of, what are we doing at Jefferson with regards to LGBTQ plus affairs? Up until January of this year, it was really not very much. Probably the most active group was certainly the Jeff LGBTQ student group, as they had been and they continue to be, but as they had been over the years, that was really the only organized group in Jefferson, and certainly the most active. Over the years, there have been a scattering of educational offerings, formal educational offerings, items that have been embedded throughout, kind of threaded through, but not a very big push. So you might say there was a smattering of those educational offerings. And then there's some scattered activities here and there, educational, some social, certainly some involvement in the community. But for the most part, it wasn't very robust. So in January of this year, I'm sorry, this is just an example of for the physicians, the physician alumni. This is actually an illustration of the new Jeff MD curriculum. It's been reorganized in a big way. And I will say that over the last 4 years, as we've made this move, the current third-year medical school class was the first group to undergo this or to experience this curricula in its new format. We have added many more educational offerings in LGBTQ plus health. We have transgender panel sessions with follow-up sessions after that. And we have a whole health system science thread that goes throughout the entire curriculum, of which my assistant dean for diversity and student diversity programs she's part of the curriculum committee. And this is the health system science thread is really to make sure that we're teaching that portion of education that relates to diversity, inclusion, cultural competency, structural competency, and the such. So I will say that over the last 3 to 4 years, there's been a significant increase and recognition of the importance of this area, and certainly these particular topics. So when I think about Jefferson as a whole, we've really made much effort. There's been a lot of effort since January of 2019. So in January of 2019, we meaning a number of us at the Center City campus, formed a group called the LGBTQ plus Health Champions group. I pulled this slide because this was from a presentation that we had done in June. We actually had spent about 6 months working and had a presentation to really summarize all of our findings. I'm just going to go through this a little bit, just kind of give you an idea of really where we are. And I say, I think the greatest activity has been in the last, well now 8 months or so. So the Health Champions Group membership, it started out with representatives from the different clinical departments. And for the most part, they were physicians. And this group grew very quickly. We made sure that we included people from all of the colleges at Center City. We ended up taking on staff. So there's nurses, nurse practitioners, there's we have an oral surgeon on it. We have faculty. We have senior administration. So one of the members of this group is the president of the hospital, Rich Webster. So we really were able to compile a group, to put together a group that spans all areas. And when I think about diversity, it really is a diverse group because we've got people from all different parts of the organization. It's not just physicians or just nurses or just senior administration. We really put together a group to allow us to look at all areas, see the different viewpoints to figure out where we are and what is it that we need to do. By the way, our group is now up to 50, I think we're up to 58 members. We've actually are in the process of adding some people from the community so that we can get their input on how they see us and what their needs are as well. But we're up to 58 members, and it's a big group, but it's certainly been a group that has done a lot of work. There's a lot of energy behind things. So what we did was, in the course of this, I'd say the first 3 months, we met in small groups to really try to figure out, well, what is it that we do now? What is the current state of affairs for us as we stand? Before we could jump ahead, we thought, well, we better find out where we are. What do we do? What do we do well? What do we not do so well? So some of the positives of our current state. Well, we do have a very active LGBTQ group, so that's been a positive. They've been very active. They've actually helped push forward a number of initiatives to get us to be better as an organization. We do have services, and again, so I'm going to talk about something that happened in June and July to the organization in a positive way, but we did have a scattering of services that we could offer to patients looking for specific services. Again, I mentioned the variety of offerings in the curricula. There are elective clinical offerings, and I mentioned the Jeff MD curriculum, where there's been a lot of movement and a lot of increase in education in that area. We've had some community engagement, namely Mazzoni Center, that probably where we had done our most collaboration. So we had some community engagement. When we look at our environment, a scattering of activity. So it wasn't zero, but it wasn't where we wanted it to be. And we have actually a fairly big push in terms of student recruitment for the medical college. We actually have a very active recruitment process for underrepresented minority students and LGBTQ plus students as well. So what the current state lacks, you can probably figure out just from seeing how not robust that list was. It's really the recognition of our current activities. So most people in the organization really don't know some of those positives. There's just no marketing, there's no publicity of that. There's no visible signs of inclusion. So when you walk around campus, you walk around the hospital, you walk around anywhere, there is no visible signs of inclusion for the LGBTQ plus community. We didn't have an affinity group for staff and faculty. It was the students. That was the only group. So there was no affinity group, no way to gather, no way to socialize, no way to move forward in any organized way. There's no targeted recruitment beyond SKMC students. There's no comprehensive mandatory education throughout the organization. Again, more of it in the curricula, the most of it in SKMC, but for the hospital, for the outpatient setting, there is no comprehensive mandatory education. We all these scatterings of activities, there's no organization, no real organization and coordination to it. And we don't have dedicated people and resources to allow us to really move ahead in this area. So we spent 3 months looking at trying to come up with this state of affairs analysis. And then we spent, probably about another 2 months coming up with action items as to, well, what should we do to move us forward? Well, the easy answer was our action items are really to address what's lacking. So whatever we don't have, we need to have. Now, some of the overarching action items that we have is, well, we need to have dedicated people and real resources to make this happen. We made great headway with the group of people that we have. My office, my assistant provost for diversity and inclusion, my assistant dean for diversity and student diversity programs. We have some resources, but we recognize that we need a dedicated person or 3 or 5 with real dollars to really make this go forward. We need to organize and coordinate, and that actually is tied into having somebody or some people that are actually charged with overseeing these initiatives. We need mandatory education. It can't be an elective one where you think it might be interesting to see everybody who cares for a patient. And actually, we started it with everybody who cares for a patient who might be LGBTQ plus. And then we said, well, we really need this for everybody. It's not just about patient care. It's also about how we treat each other. But we need mandatory education. We need to create an affinity group. And again, more on that in just a little bit. We need to create visible signs of inclusion, and not just visible signs. It's easy enough to put up the Philly Pride flag, easy enough to put that up. But when we put those visible signs of inclusion, we also wanted to make sure that, well, there is real inclusion, that it's not just a sign, but that there's really something behind that. And it's really about creating that inclusive environment. It's publicizing current activities, and it's targeting recruitment all across everywhere, really. And it's when we're talking about this, it is to target LGBTQ plus recruitment. Other things, well, a challenge is getting senior leadership to understand the importance of this. They have so many competing priorities and there's limited resources. It's trying to make sure that senior leadership understands why this is important so that those resources could be dedicated to what it is that we want to do. It's creating policies. We talked about this a lot in our many meetings about having policies on patient care, on education, just to make sure that when I say policies or rules were in place, and making sure that they were publicized. It's making sure that we ask ourselves from within and ask those from the outside who are looking to us, well, what are your needs? And it's making sure that we expand this to the enterprise. So the work that we had done was at Center City, and geographically, that was just the easiest. I'm at Center City, and we focused our efforts on Center City, but we recognized that this can't be just one part of the organization. It's got to be the entire organization. It's all, now we're somewhere up around 35,000 people with Jefferson Northeast, Jefferson, New Jersey, there's Abington. All of the different parts of the organization needed to be included in this, so it wouldn't be just one area. And again, big piece is making sure that we let people know. Some of the marketing and publicity is just so that people know what exists, what's being done, because as it stands now, without this marketing and publicity, for all intents and purposes, people think that nothing is actually going on. I just put this slide up here. This is our TJU Diversity and Inclusion website. One of the things that we are working on now is our LGBTQ plus efforts. Again, it's got to have some substance to it, but we are in the process of creating a web page so that at the very least we can publicize some of the things that we do. And I'm sorry. One point is that in our website, one of the things that we aim to include is an out list. It's done at other institutions, and it's amongst other things, amongst the many things that we do, it's creating a list of people who say, I'm fine with being, I want to be on this list. We're going to include allies to be on this list. It will be part of what it is that we do. And it's a way of recognizing people. It's a way of publicizing our efforts. We pay attention to the healthcare equality index, all right? So essentially a scorecard for the services that we provide, the atmosphere that we nurture. We lost our status. I think it was 2016 where we got a 100% score. We did well on it. What ends up happening is you do well on it, and they essentially up the requirements. They actually expect more of you. So we did not want to do all of these efforts. The intent was not simply to do more things so that we can score higher. We pay attention to this because it is a measure of what we do. Our thought was, well, we should be doing great things. We should be working in all areas, and that the HEI would simply follow along with it. So we're really looking at this along with all of the work that we're doing. In some ways, it keeps us in line and helps us to move forward and know that we're actually doing something positive. Our affinity group will, I would say it will officially kick off on October 11th of this year. So October 11th happens to be National Coming Out Day. We have, what I have on this slide is the very beginnings of the group. We've developed our mission, values, and our areas of focus. On October 11th, on Coming Out Day, the advertisement will be, come on out to see Pride at Jefferson. That's what we think the name is going to be. It will be an all-enterprise affinity group. And again, some of the areas, we're looking at it a little bit from a social standpoint. We're looking at it a lot from community engagement to see what can we do good in the communities that we serve. Philly Pride Parade, 2018, we had maybe 15 people, mostly students. In 2019, this past June, we think we had at least 250. There were likely more. So you saw a picture of it in the very opening slide to this session. Here are a couple more pictures here as well, but we had a very organized effort. It was enterprise-wide. We invited members from the various divisions of Jefferson. Up in the top right corner of this was our Jefferson logo. This was what was printed on the t-shirts. We actually expect to be using this in some official way, but that was, you might call it the Jefferson Pride logo that was on in full support. So we had our chief diversity officer there, Rich Webster was there. So we had lots of people that came out. A wonderful, wonderful event on a really nice summer day, but Jefferson was a force. And again, it's just one part of the initiatives, one part of the activity that we're looking to continue to do. Not that long ago, I think it was the end of July, Jefferson jumped in, really feet first, almost in the deep end. Finally, we might say, but we jumped in and we were a sponsor and an exhibitor at the Philadelphia Trans Wellness Conference. So it was held at the convention center. It was our first time. I believe there was only one other organization that paid more money as a sponsor than we did. We had the advertisement, so you can see these are the bus skins of buses that were running around town. This was on the right of this particular slide. These were the advertisements that were in some of the SEPTA bus stalls on the street, but we wanted to go all in a very big way. We had never been a part of it. I believe this conference has been around for, somewhere around 16, 17, 18 years. This was our first time, and it will be the first of many more to come. It was a wonderful event. We had lots of participation from people in the organization. We had people who spoke at the conference, who were giving lectures, and we had lots of people helping out with it. So our first foray into this, we did it in a very big way. So to me, that was a real sign that the organization is truly supportive. Believe me, the amount of money that was spent, we don't see that happen all that often with events. So that Jefferson went in a big way really just spoke to me that there's true support for what it is that we're trying to accomplish. Here's a group of us. So you can see this is what I look like in less dressy clothes. I'm the one on the far left. Here are a number of people that at our table. We sat there and engaged people as they wandered through. We think they estimated about 12,000 attendees over the course of 4 days. We engaged many, many people, got to meet people and learn things. And again, first of our many to come representation at this particular conference. Right now, we're in the process of cataloging all of our patient care services. All right, so in the area of patient care, that is our focus. So is one of our big areas of focus. The other is ourselves, our own environment. We're in the process of cataloging all of our services, and we're developing a curriculum that is really meant to be education for all. So that mandatory education that we have been, that we believe needs to happen, that's in the works right now. So we expect that sometime in the near future, there will be education around this that really is meant for all and that will be taken by all. In this past, starting July 1st, we recruited to Jefferson Dr. Kathy Roomer. So Dr. Roomer is a cosmetic and plastic surgeon who does gender-affirming surgeries. A little curious why that hasn't been a really big announcement, but some of it was, well, we wanted to make sure she was coming. We wanted to see, when was she actually going to start? Well, in the month of July, she did 20 gender-affirming surgeries. This was a major event for the organization in that we were able to educate, well, at least I believe it was pretty much everybody, but we were able to educate an entire hospital on the care of the transgender patient, knowing that anybody that was in that hospital was really fair game for taking care of a transgender patient. So that was a big deal for us that now we have someone like this. If any of you had the chance, there was an article in the Philadelphia Gay News that talked about her coming to Jefferson, and she made mention about an LGBTQ health center which we were kind of taken aback by. We're not sure where that came from. The reality of it is it just put it on the map and said, well, we intend on having one of those. It just came out in the news a little bit sooner than we had thought it was going to be. But that was part of the article of when she came to Jefferson. But again, major win for us in this area. Just throwing out another item, we're in the process of having all gender bathrooms. I put these up because we're looking at different signs that we're putting up, and I couldn't find the one that I think might be the final one, but the intent was really to make sure that there are all gender bathrooms, gender neutral bathrooms. We think they're going to be called all gender bathrooms. They're on the academic side. We have them on the clinical side. The plan is we're going to label them. We're going to map them and put them on a website so people can find it. Again, for us at Jefferson, that's a pretty big step. And then the last, I guess one of the big things is the senior leadership piece. So when, really there are a lot of us, that LGBTQ plus Health Champions group, we've got the student group. There are a lot of people who have done a lot of work in the last 8 months to really move us forward. Ultimately, in order for it to happen, we need those real resources. So let's just say I've had meetings with very, very senior leadership, as close to the top as you can get without being at the top. And we have prioritized our action item list so that we can determine where the resources, how we're going to allocate resources. So without knowing, I don't know what the amounts are, but I'm very confident that in these discussions that we will have some real resources that are put towards this to make those action items actually happen. We're meeting regularly with Mazzoni Center. Again, the idea is to partner with Mazzoni Center, to work with them. They have expertise. We believe that we have things that we can offer. The intent is not to take over. We know that there's been some leadership changes and unrest, but we've been meeting with Mazzoni Center to make sure that we are partners with them, because in the end, it's ultimately about making sure that the patients who go there, the patients who need to be served, get the best service that they can. So that same October 11th date, where the National Coming Out Day, well, this is actually on purpose. So on campus for the first time, there will be a research workshop. The Sexual and Gender Minority Office from the National Institutes of Health is having their regional workshop at Jefferson. And we are working with, so Edith Mitchell, who's a medical oncologist at Jefferson, a lot of work in diversity and inclusion. She's essentially running this for us, and we're putting our plans together with our coming out of our Pride at Jefferson group. There will be a big social for the enterprise. It's tied to this particular conference. So for me, it's a big deal. The National Institutes of Health is having a conference at Jefferson on sex and gender minority research. So what's the future for us? So I'll tell you, when I put on here, this is Mainline Health. So when we were at the Trans Wellness Conference, we sat, our table was right across the way from Mainline Health. And Mainline Health, I think I'm not sure, it's been around for at least a year, perhaps longer, but they have an LGBTQ plus health center. They have an office of, or a center of, and the whole time we sat there across from them, we said, that's going to be us a year from now. We will do this. We will organize it. Again, I mentioned the senior leadership buy-in, the resources. We've engaged Abington Hospital, Jefferson, New Jersey. We're about to engage Jefferson Northeast. It's really making sure that we do this enterprise-wide. But what's our future? The future will be the Center for LGBTQ Health at Jefferson in whatever form that is. And again, the intent is to provide not only comprehensive care, but it's actually to make sure that we ourselves internally are that truly inclusive environment. So it's not just the patients, the people that we serve, but it's really for everybody. And that's really our future. There, again, this is, I'm dreaming a little bit, but I don't think it's that big of a dream. Again, that's my opinion, and based on where I sit and what's happened and who I've talked with, I think one day we're actually going to get to see this happen. The Jefferson Center for LGBTQ plus Health, with everything that goes into it, with an inclusive environment that supports the people within, engaging the community and the people that we serve so that we can provide that best service, that best care. And that's basically it. So this was not meant for me to try to tell you every single thing that's going on. Mostly I wanted you to know what we have accomplished, what we have thought of, what we are planning in the course of the last 9 months. Just to let you know, there's been far greater activity in these 8 months than I've really ever seen, at least at Center City, and certainly in our growing organization. So I hope that was useful for you. I hope that maybe a little bit inspiring for you. And really, I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has anything.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lopez. I think it is really exciting and wonderful, all the things that are upcoming that you've just talked about this evening. So as you said, we're now open for questions if anyone has any. There is like a question and answer box where you can type in your questions and I can read them to Dr. Lopez. If not, you can always reach out to the Office of Alumni Relations with any questions that kind of pop into your mind afterwards. I know that happens to me all the time, and we'd be happy to send them along to Dr. Lopez. Let me see, just give everyone a few minutes to gather their thoughts and see if any come through. No. Nothing yet.
Nobody has questions?
No, but then it looks like you covered everything so well, Dr. Lopez. There's no questions.
All right. Well, for whoever is still on the line, again, this was a description of the last 8 months. I'll tell you, I'm very hopeful. I'm very optimistic, and believe me, in my diversity and inclusion work, I have plenty of opportunity to be disappointed in things or be hopeful and then have it not come through. I've just been so encouraged with what's gone on here. And it's really the efforts of many, many people. I'll tell you, my work with this Health Champions group has been, I'm trying to think, and I don't mean to disparage anybody, but I can safely say that this group has been probably the best group that I've ever worked with, because they come with such great ideas. They come with great energy. I have gotten more work done, when I say work, in trying to determine the current state of affairs, in coming up with ideas of how we would do it at Jefferson, how we would make things better. I can't think of a group that I've ever worked with that has been so responsive, so energetic, with great ideas. that's one of the main reasons that I'm very hopeful, is that I've got a group of people who will do what it takes to make it happen. I look at me as the person who's just kind of guiding everybody, and again, just really looking to make sure that we are doing all that we can in this area. So I'll pass a lot of the credit for this work to the people that I've worked with, because they've done such a great job in wanting to move it forward, and they aren't going to let it fall apart. So I hope that one time actually what I really hope is that a website will come up. You'll see all the great activities, so you won't have to necessarily have an alumni talk by me, though I would love to do this one time in the future and tell you, this is what's happened since August of 2019. All those great things that I told you might happen have happened, and plus some, but I'm feeling very confident with all of this.
That's great, Dr. Lopez. We look forward to that day as well. And just so you know, some of our alumni who joined us this evening, and thanks you for your efforts. And Karen Kramer said that she enjoyed listening to you, and she's applauding Jefferson's efforts. So we're on the right road in the right direction, and we're looking forward to having you back, and hopefully having, an in-person event for a grand opening for the center. So we're looking forward to all these things.
Great.
Oh, and then Christine Holbert, I think someone joined a little late. Can you just explain what the Mazzoni Center is?
So Mazzoni Center, let's see, they're located Broad and Spruce Street. So essentially, think of the Mazzoni Center might be thought of as a comprehensive care center for LGBTQ plus patients. Right now, I know some, just from having toured it, having worked with one of the leaders there, that's probably the best way to think of Mazzoni Center. So if you're looking for specialized care, and this is comprehensive, so it's not just medical. So you can get psychiatric care, you can get social work care. It's comprehensive care. What I understand is that there are many people who will come to the city of Philadelphia, particularly, and again, this is from what I remember in my discussions with the leadership at Mazzoni Center, is that there are many transgender people who will come to Philadelphia specifically because there is a center that can provide that comprehensive care. All right, so that's what Mazzoni Center is. They not only do they do patient care, they really help provide education. So we work with their education team when we're trying to put together educational programs at Jefferson, when we need an educator for a certain area. Somebody asked a question about who sponsors it. From what I was told, it's largely donations. It's again, I couldn't tell you that specifically. They are their own, organization, but much of their support comes from private donors.
All right, great. Thank you again, Dr. Lopez. As I mentioned, this webinar has been recorded, so we'll make sure to upload it to our YouTube channel so everyone can watch it again. We'll email a link to everyone who attended and to everyone who registered and wasn't able to make it, because we know how life is, and that's why we like doing the, oh, one more question. What is Mainline Health?
I'm so sorry so Mainline Health is I don't know, I think there are 5 hospital systems. They're located on the main line, which is essentially a long series of suburbs of Philadelphia. And there are really many private hospitals, so Lankenau Hospital, Bryn Mawr, Paoli. There's, I think, 1 or 2 more hospitals in their system, but think of it as they are big community hospitals that are banded together in one organization.
Right, great. Thank you again, Dr. Lopez, and we will send out that email with the recording, and then we're looking forward to having you back. Thank you all for spending your evening with us, and Dr. Lopez, thank you again for this really wonderful presentation. We appreciate it as always.
Great. Well, thanks for having me, and again, thanks for everybody for hanging on. I'm hoping that this provides lots of hope, and I'm hoping it makes you feel good about being a Jefferson alum, because there are some good things that are going to happen in this area. So take care, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.